I know.
She said, I just wanted you to know that you're part of the.
Okay, it's 9 a.m. I'd like to welcome you all to the February 18th, 2020 City Council meeting. Please call the roll.
Daveline?
Here.
Soldner?
Here.
Bagwell? Garza?
Yes, here.
Pyros de Carvalho?
Here.
Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This morning's prayer will be given by Gary Getting with Elliott Mortuary. Thank you, Gary.
You're very welcome. Shall we pray? Our Heavenly Father, as always, we're grateful for the many blessings that you have given to us, as Americans especially, the freedom to govern ourselves. We thank you for those that choose to give of their time and energy as a part of that process of self-governance. And we pray for wisdom and discernment in this chamber, and we pray for your watchful care over all those who are out in our community today, watching over us and being ready to serve and respond in a moment's notice. We're grateful for our community in which we live, the many opportunities that are ours. It has challenges as well, and we know that you'll guide and direct us through those. For I pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Next item, please.
Item 4, oral communications from the audience.
Okay, this is the time of the meeting where I invite you up to go over items of concern that are not on the agenda. We ask that you please limit your remarks to 5 minutes, state your name and address, keep your remarks respectful. Thank you.
Good morning, DeJada, the Human Relations Officer for the City of Hutchinson. I just wanted to brief you on our successful workshop that took place last week, Wednesday. Even amidst the snow, we had a great turnout. Over 60 folks attended, and we had great discussions talking about the different understandings and terminologies of diversity and what equity and equality really look like. I wanted to publicly thank those partners that we have here in the community that helped us put that workshop on: the Community Foundation, Hutchinson Regional Hospital, Reno County Young Professionals, and Reno County HEAL, and the Health Equity Work Group. We just were really thrilled with the turnout and the support. We thank Mayor Jade for coming out and being a part of that conversation. And there will be more to come. We shared with the group the opportunity to have the next 5 meetings to really rediscuss how we are using the tools that we gained from that workshop in the work that we do here in the community. And so I'll be reporting periodically on the discussions that are happening there. We shared also at that meeting some results from our survey, our discrimination survey, and I shared that with the council this morning. We'll make it more available to the public once we have a chance as a commission to evaluate the information and get a better handle on where the focuses need to be for our work as the commission. So I just wanted to greet you and thank you all for your support, and I'll continue to report out some of the things that we're doing through the commission.
Great. Well, thank you for your leadership on that, DeJade. It was a wonderful workshop. Really impressed with the keynote speaker and grateful for all the sponsors. And I think it laid a really nice groundwork for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So thank you.
So. Thank you.
Are there others in the audience who would like to address the council? Okay. Hearing none, please call the next item.
Item 5, consent agenda.
Go ahead.
Go
Nancy.
ahead. I was going to say,
Yeah, go
I will
ahead.
move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Daveline?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Bagwell?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho?
Yes, next item, please.
Item 6A, consider update on structures determined to be unsafe and dangerous.
Good morning, Council. Mayor Trent Maxwell, building official for the city. This is probably the earliest I've been up, so not used to that. I don't have a presentation for you. I'm gone through, so if you look back at our last council date, they were given an extension for 3 months, and it fell on this date, just how the days fall, to come back and give you an update. I believe some progress has been made on some of them, but visibly it wasn't a whole lot to show in a PowerPoint that would really have you guys feel one way or the other. I do know on, so we're talking about 3 properties or 3 individual properties plus one of them has 2 separate structures on them. 2100 South Bone Break, 1600 North Prairie, 840 East 4th, and then 204 East Avenue F. I grouped that in with it. That is the one that was given 30 days to come back with a plan and contracts or estimates from contractors to make those repairs. So from the 2100 South Bone Break, the residential structure, as you know, they've got a residential structure and a commercial structure on the same parcel. The residential one, you can see visible progress. There's still work to do. They're aware of that. The commercial building, just this morning, so I'm going to hand this out to you guys. And this is for the commercial structure. The south side of the building, as they explained a few months ago, is going to be demolished. They do have a contract. I do not know the exact cost of that contract, but TEW Roll-Offs is a licensed demolition contractor. He says here by the end of March, he'll have the south part demolished. The property owner has been in discussion with the local general contractor to make the repairs on the main building. Most, if not all, of the owners are here in the audience, and they can speak more specific about what their plan is. So with that, the other thing that was in your packet that was a change on the 204 East Avenue F as far as contracts go, this was an estimate for the roof of that structure. And she was working with this same company, I believe, to find out for siding and a partial demolition on the north or the back end of the house. If you have any more questions for me, I'll stand for those. If not, like I say, the property owners, I believe, are here in the group.
Your recommendation?
My recommendation was just grouping all these together that you committed to the extension before, and to extend a 3-month extension to all the properties.
I just have a question. I think we all appreciate the deliberate work that each of these property owners are working on, but I did notice from your memo that in 2 or 3 instances the property taxes are in the arrears, and I can't emphasize enough the importance of keeping your property taxes current. And if they lapse too long, it potentially could go to a sheriff's sale. So it's important that you keep your taxes current. Some dated back to 2014 and 2017. So do work in getting those taxes paid.
And I'm glad you brought that up. I did put that in my memo. 1600 North Prairie.
Yeah.
The county did reach out to me. It was supposed to be slated for tax sale, and because of this process, they put that on hold.
Okay.
That is the one from 2014 taxes, and maybe before that, but I know 14 on have not been paid. So if it's not paid, they're for sure planning on tax selling it. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to be too rigid on this, but I would think that if we grant this extension here, that by the time that extension expires, those taxes need to be paid.
Mm-hmm. Trent, I had a concern that if the taxes aren't paid and we grant the extension, but the work isn't done, it remains on the demo list, goes to sheriff's tax sale. Somebody could potentially buy it while it's on the demo list.
They have it on hold because I do have it on the demolition list. So Joe Sullivan will not.
He won't sell it.
No, he's waiting for this process to end one way or the other. If you give an extension, even if it's repaired, he will still seek tax sale.
Do we happen to have that property owner in the audience who would like to speak to progress or?
I do
I
not
don't see him.
them. No.
He's the individual that works out of town, right?
Him and his son both, I believe, work similar jobs. I want to say Morton Salt.
Oh, okay.
And that was part of their thing. They have been working, well,
Okay.
at least a few months ago, 6 days a week. But Yeah, I don't believe they're out of town workers.
Okay, I don't know where I got that idea.
Yeah. So,
So you want today to ask us to give them an extension, is that right?
that was based on our last discussion and other discussions. I felt that would probably be the easiest decision for council to make. In years past, we have granted extensions until we felt we go into a brick wall of some sort, and there's no further progression, and then we've come back for demolition. Am I impressed by the amount of progress? No. I do know, and I failed to mention this because I spoke to her this morning. Pam Casanova, 840 East 4th, has been excellent in communication, and most of them have been good about communicating, but she has glass going in tomorrow from a local glass store, and then I do have a permit from Ray & Sons to do the roof. So I'm confident,
Okay.
based on the people she's using and the confirmations I've been given from those companies, that will happen. It hasn't happened yet, but the place did get cleaned out. If you remember the stories from before, it had a lot of dead pigeons and stuff in it. It was open. She got those openings closed in, and then hired a company to go in and clean it out. So
Yeah, I'd much rather see these properties salvaged and contribute to, infill renovation and redevelopment than demolished. So I'm certainly in favor of the extension. I had a question about if there is no communication in the interim, is that incumbent upon the property owner to reach out to inspection, or does inspection have a schedule of reaching out to them monthly?
it depends on if there's permits. If there's permits pulled, then there's contractors calling for those inspections. If there's no permits pulled, I try to make contact with them, and then before council comes, I'll try to find out everything they've done to be able to give you guys a good update.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the only one I have any real concern about is 1600 North Prairie, because evidently nothing has happened subsequently. But the rest of them, I'm in agreement that probably the extensions are valid. Do you want a motion?
I know that my husband works at Morton Salt, and they have had a lot of extensive layover, and he has worked tons of overtime lately. So I'm just throwing that out there that my husband also has been working 6 and 7 days. He just got called in to work a 16-hour shift tomorrow. So I'm just saying, what happened is they had a lot of people retire, and then they hired a bunch of new people. Not all of them are working out. They're going through the whole turnover rate thing right now. So
Yeah, I think it was a legitimate excuse that they gave. And my only concern with pulling it off of the extension list is I remember they actually did do quite a bit of work. I mean, it was a wreck, and then I know it's not where it needs to be, but I would hate for all of that to be for naught. But again, if their taxes are 6 years in arrears, if they don't pay those,
It's moot.
they're either going to
Yep.
get it sold out from under them by the county or torn down. So I would be in favor of granting the extension and putting the onus back on them. If they don't remedy that, then
It's in their court.
yeah, and we
Yeah.
haven't
Yeah.
made the decision for them, I guess.
Okay, and are you ready for a motion?
Yes.
Unless there's further discussion,
No.
or if anybody in the audience. Okay.
Okay, I would move to approve a 3-month extension of time to complete the rehabilitation of 2100 South Bonebreak Street, commercial and residential structures, 1600 North Prairie, 840 East 4th, and 204 East Avenue F.
Is there a second?
second.
Again, further discussion from the council or anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to this item? Okay, hearing none, please call the roll.
Dave Line?
Yes?
Soldner?
Yes.
Bagwell?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho?
Yes, next item, please.
Item 6B, consider acceptance of 2020 Community Development Block Grant for Housing Rehabilitation.
Good morning, Madam Mayor and members of the council. My name is Ryan Vietlich, Director of Planning and Development with the City of Hutchinson. I have some positive news to bring forward to the council this morning. We all know housing has been in the community conversation recently, and there's been some questions of what the city can really do. And this is one tool that we're very excited about, and want to kind of talk a little bit about it, and then ask for acceptance of the grant, and for the council to approve the grant acceptance documents. So I want to kind of give a little bit of timeline of how we got here. This is for the Community Development Block Grant for Housing Rehabilitation. There were several steps that the city had to go through in order to even apply for the application or for this grant, and I wanted to kind of go through some of that and break out some of the details about the grant. So back in 2019, in June of 2019, the Housing Commission finished up work on what is called a housing assessment tool, or a HAT. This is basically where we looked at condition of housing in the community. We talked with different community partners, employers, nonprofits, education, a wide spectrum of the community, and really asked kind of what's the state of housing in Hutchinson now, what are your concerns? And it came back that there are some concerns about housing. Our housing stock is aging in this community, and we're not seeing a lot of new housing that's being built. And so we took that tool to a group with Kansas Housing in July of 2019. They looked at it and agreed that yes, there is a need for some housing rehabilitation in the city, and allowed us to apply for the CDBG grant. As part of that process, we had to do some neighborhood engagement outreach with some of our neighborhoods, and go through a pre-application process to really gauge interest in the potential project. So we reached out to the Lincoln School neighborhood and didn't really get much response at all from them. We reached out to Southwest Bricktown, and we reached out to Creekside. Southwest Bricktown and Creekside, we went and actually did some pre-applications. We ended up getting 3 applications from Southwest Bricktown and about 20 from Creekside. So the neighborhood was really interested in this potential, and so that helped us really kind of narrow where this target area would be. So the Housing Commission selected an area in July of 2019, and the council approved staff submitting an application for this grant in August of 2019. So kind of some quick history. The last CDBG grant that the city received for housing rehabilitation was in 2014, and that was in the East Avenue A corridor. I've gotten a lot of questions of why we selected the Creekside area, and really it comes down to with the amount of money that is as part of this grant, we have to make sure that we can really maximize it, and so we're looking at homes that are a little bit smaller than what you see in East Avenue A. Those large homes that really presented an issue with the last grant and made it difficult to complete the grant. And so it's not that we certainly don't want to help other parts of the community, but with this grant, there has to be some figuring out of what we can really do. So as I mentioned, we reached out to Southwest Bricktown and to Creekside, and we received 3 pre-applications and approximately 30 applications from Creekside. So certainly some interest there. So the Creekside neighborhood was chosen as the neighborhood because of the response rate for the pre-applications. Once we did that, we had to narrow the area down to even further to approximately 75 housing units per the grant requirements. We mapped out all the pre-applications received. We chose an area of 82 housing units on the southeast corner of the Creekside neighborhood. After the area was narrowed down, we sent another letter to the property owners who had not yet submitted a pre-application or had not been notified, and in total we received 20 within the actual target area, which I will show right here is roughly this area right here. So basically 6th to 8th and the alley between Main and Washington over to Adams. So in there's about 80 homes, and we had about 20 applications for that, pre-applications. So what the grant will actually do is we are planning to rehabilitate 10 housing units. So that would be 5 owner-occupied and 5 renter-occupied. landlords are eligible. They must provide 25% match to participate. And then in order to qualify, eligible homeowners and tenants have to meet the low medium income guidelines, which you see below there. So for a family of four, it's just over $49,000 a year. So we think that this is something that will be able to be utilized by several, by a large sector of the community in the Creekside area. So what type of projects are we looking at? So we're looking at both minor rehabilitation and moderate and substantial rehabilitation projects are eligible for this grant. So under minor, you'd be looking at doing accessibility, so ramps or things like that, energy conservation, lead abatement, paint programs, emergency repairs. Under moderate, it would be bringing the homes up to code, improving the overall livability and functionality of the unit. You can also do lead-based paint reduction and home-based business rehabilitation. So really the idea is to further the lifespan of these homes. So these are homes that we will be working with SCED. They are the grant administrator helping us out with this, and so they are very familiar with this type of work. They've done it in McPherson, and we're very excited. We think that this will be a big opportunity. The other thing that we're hoping for is to really leverage these funds with some of SCED's work and also some of the work through interfaith housing as well. And so kind of breaking down a little bit, that sort of breaks that into the project financing. So the grant itself is for $256,500. With that, there's a match of $75,130. Where that really comes from is the lion's share of that, almost $29,000 would be that landlord match that we spoke about, the 25%. The city is helping out though with, we would waive the permit fees for anyone with this project. That's approximately $3,000. SCED has said that they would set aside up to $30,000 to do weatherization work. And then we would put $3,000 of brush up hutch money towards this. And then there's some other things there. The other piece you would see is that the planning department, we are putting in $10,000 from our grant matching account to help pay for the administration of this, and then some legal, some minor fees in terms of any legal paperwork that would be paid for by the city as well. So what you're looking at in all is just about a $325,000 project here. So it's a pretty big project. We're really excited. Kind of the next steps would be environmental review is underway now. That's required for pretty much any federal money. And then after that, we would actually begin soliciting proposals from contractors. There are some very federal requirements in terms of wages and things like that. We'd be working with SCED to prepare that. Really the hope is that probably in August we would actually start doing the first awards, and we would like to have our first batch of homes done ideally by the end of this year or very early next year. So we've done a lot of groundwork, and very grateful to my staff, to the Kansas Department of Commerce, and to SCED, all working together, I think, to really make a big difference in the Creekside area. So we're very excited, and if we do accept it, we got this nice giant check from Kansas Department of Commerce. So went up to Topeka last week and did the little picture and everything. So
Great.
got a nice little giant check. Can't really cash it, but very excited about it. So staff does recommend a motion to accept the 2020 Community Development Block Grant for Housing Rehabilitation from the Kansas Department of Commerce in the amount of $256,500, and authorize the mayor to sign grant acceptance documents.
Kudos to you, Ryan
Yes.
and Amy, and your whole team.
Yes.
It's a very competitive
It is.
selection process, and just really good work on your part. I am curious, how do we determine which 10 of the 20 pre-applications are selected?
There's a more stringent application process. SCED will be working with the homeowners. There's it's a partnership, and some homeowners will just realize that they probably don't want to go through the process because it can be some fairly major work that's done, especially if there's lead paint abatement. There's some temporary relocation funds that are also in the grant that are eligible for reimbursement. So we'll be working with the homeowners and over the next couple of weeks to hopefully really narrow it down to who really wants to do it. The hope is that with the work of Rebecca and social media, we'll really be able to get this out into the community and show some good work that we're doing, and that will hopefully encourage others in the neighborhood to take a look at it. So it's with federal funds. I mean, there is some things that that there's income checks and things like that have to be done. So some people decide that it's not really something that they're interested in doing. So we're hopeful. We have a problem where we have too many. In the past, it's been difficult to get that, and that's common in a lot of communities. Is that it's just an unfamiliar process, and so we'll be working with them on that. So.
Thank you.
I got a couple questions for you, sir.
Yeah.
Number one, you said the Lincoln side didn't want to participate in this. How do you do that? Do you go to the school? Do you organize them? Or how do we get the Lincoln to get organized? That's one question.
Yeah.
Real quick question, I'd rather know, how many times a year do we get this grant stuff? I'm just learning about all this grants and stuff. How does...
Yeah, absolutely. So the Community Development Block Grant is an annual grant, and the whole process, it takes about 2 years. So we would probably, the earliest we would apply for another grant would be in 21 or 22 for this. The state doesn't like to award grants when you have an open grant out for it. In terms of the outreach we did, we went to all 3 neighborhoods and held a meeting and spoke with them and just explained what the process was. And there was really just not that much interest. And so our hope is that, if we're successful with this grant, we can show what this grant can do, and that will maybe encourage other property owners to take a look at this opportunity in the future. So.
Okay, well, I already got a challenge on my case. We'll get them organized, and and I want to thank you for this. This is the kind of stuff I've been talking about. Didn't realize we had this, and we will get better organized, and we will. So.
And we'd love to be a part of that. We really do want to empower our neighborhoods, all of our neighborhoods, to really, advocate for themselves and be partners with the city.
You was part of the conversation that we had. This is part of the situation that I'm talking about. You was part of when I met with the Hutch Rec, and there was a gentleman there who's in charge of the sections. I mean, the Southwest Breck and all them other, and he stated that he hasn't organized. He couldn't get it organized in the south end of town yet. So they ain't even got a name yet. Is that correct? They can't. They're not organized, so they don't have a name yet. So.
Yeah, really how the whole feature neighborhoods work is it's the city and Hutch Rec are partners, but really we don't want. The city doesn't want to be the ones coming into these neighborhoods and telling the the residents what what to make of their neighborhood. It really should be a resident powered, and so we're trying to give the neighborhoods tools to feel like they can be empowered, and so that has been a struggle on the southern part of the city, and it's something that we're certainly continuing to work with. And I think as we have opportunities like this, or we can show some of the great work that some of our other feature neighborhoods have done, it may take some of that fear or concern away from the residents. So,
well, as much as I've been in this thing, we need the citizens to be above. They need to be involved in this decision, and I'm going to do my best to get it organized so we can be part of the city too. So,
thank you.
Like again, I thank you for this, and this is what I've been looking for, and now I know a little bit more about it.
Thank you.
All right.
Are there other comments or questions for Ryan?
Good
Is there
job.
a motion on this item?
Yes, the motion is on the screen.
Motion to accept the 2020 Community Development Block Grant for Housing Rehabilitation from the Kansas Department of Commerce in the amount of $256,500 and authorize the mayor to sign grant acceptance documents.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion or comments from the audience? Okay, hearing none, please call the roll.
Dave Lund.
Yes?
Soldner.
Yes.
Bagwell.
Yes.
Garza.
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho.
Yes, next item, please.
Item 6C, consider contract for property acquisition for the Cow Creek Channel expansion.
Good morning, Mayor and City Council.
Good morning.
Jeff Peterson,
Morning.
Director of Engineering. In 2017, the city completed a stormwater master plan. One of the projects that was proposed at that time was the Cow Creek expansion project. This is kind of a building block for future projects as we move from the basin up to the north parts of town. So to provide some stormwater benefits as we build these projects. This construction in this area is also intended to reduce the area of the 100-year floodplain that will become effective with new FEMA maps in the spring or summer of this year. So the city is in the process of acquiring properties in the corridor east of Plum Street from approximately Avenue D south to Avenue G. So this is one more property that the consultant completed some negotiations with, and today we're presenting the purchase contract for your approval. The location map kind of shows the area. It's 550 East Avenue F and includes two lots for this property. So with that, I do recommend that the City Council approve the purchase contract in the amount of $100,000 for the property, which is located at 550 East Avenue F in the proposed area where the improvements will be completed. So do you have any questions or on this? As we
Jeff,
move forward?
my question is kind of unrelated to the property acquisition, but more to the Cow Creek Channel expansion. Walk us through, if you would, the next 12 months in terms of what we can anticipate seeing in terms of the project itself and the progression of the expansion.
Well, I think in the next 30 days or so, we will have a meeting to kind of hone down on kind of what the final projects will be. Right after we get the bulk of the properties acquired, we'll actually do some demolition on the sites to kind of prepare it for the other construction. After that, and I don't know how this fits into the 12 months,
Yeah,
but
that's fine.
it's just the kind of the steps as we go. There's a number of utilities that have to be relocated in this area. There's sewer and some water lines that have to be relocated, so we'll probably do that under a separate contract. And then as we kind of know what we're doing, we'll have potentially have some bridge work in that area, and then also we'll have some earth moving in that area. But I don't know if that'll be in that, it probably won't be in that 12 months, but some of those pieces will be moving at that point. So that's kind of what I envision at this point. So it kind of involves quite a few things. They've begun some discussions with the railroads as far as opening up some railroad bridges or seeing how close we can be to the railroad and those types of things, as well as they've began looking at some of the bridge openings to see if we need a larger bridge opening or some of those types of things too. So that's it's kind of a hodgepodge, but it's kind of how that I see it.
Well, the stormwater utility has been a big issue for many, many years here, and now we're really beginning to see we're launching our first major project. We've had some smaller projects, but this is our first major project in terms of stormwater diversion.
And it's a master plan one, so some of these projects, they'll continue over the next 20 to 25 years or more. So this is just the first one, and we kind of get it started, then we can build on this. So.
We're widening. Is that what the deal is on this?
Yes, we are widening it so we can allow more water to get to this point and maybe lower some of the flooding issues we have upstream of this and right in that area also.
So you're widening it all the way down, correct?
Well, no, really, it primarily involves widening where if you see the tennis courts up there on the map.
Okay.
Through the corridor between the railroads, it'd be the tennis courts and then the area kind of where the properties are located.
Okay.
So through that area. And there might be some other things that we have to do to attenuate it, but that's the primary focus,
Okay.
Steve. So.
And ultimately, long-term, we will be doing improvements upstream as well.
Correct. This
So-
is just the first one. We kind of start downstream and move upstream
sense.
because our infrastructure, of course, in this area is some of the oldest infrastructure we have. So we want to, if we improve it as we go north, then we maybe can accommodate more stormwater as we go through these different projects and phase them as we go, so.
Great. It's a long process, but
It is, but we're trying to get her going here,
yeah.
so.
Thanks for your work on this.
I would move to approve the contract for conveyance of real estate by warranty deed and authorize the mayor to sign the contract and all other documents necessary to complete the transfer of this property to the city of Hutchinson.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, please call the roll.
Dayblight,
Yes?
Soldner,
Yes.
Bagwell,
Yes.
Garza,
Yes.
Pyrus Carvalho.
Yes, next item, please.
Item 6D, consider bids for 2020 arterial street maintenance project.
Again, Jeff Peterson, Director of Engineering. The next few items deal with some of the street projects going forward. This is the first one. Last Tuesday, we had opened bids for the 2020 arterial street maintenance project. We received 2 bids. Hang on, I'll get the location. This is kind of the location map of the projects. These are primarily going to be mill and overlay portions that'll be done. So that kind of shows the locations that we're doing that. We received a low bid of $1,322,699.83 from APAC Kansas Incorporated. This project is below both the engineer's estimate and the CIP budget for the project. And the completion of the project is August 28th of this year, and the project is funded by the Arterial Reserve account. So with that, as we get to the next item, I'll kind of show you how these all tie together with our overall street program. But I do recommend that the City Council approve the bids and authorize the mayor to sign the contract with APAC Kansas Incorporated for $1,322,699.83.
And that was the engineer's estimate? And then the APAC, I have different numbers on mine.
If you look on the, I don't have it.
APAC is, the low bid was
APAC is the low bidder.
22.
Engineer's estimate is
$1,351,000.
131.
And then the budget that was approved last year, the total budget overall is $1
I
million.
was looking at the highlighted one. Am I on
Yeah,
the wrong?
that is the low bid.
Okay.
So I kind of highlighted that so you guys.
I might be on the wrong page here, because it says Circle C paving.
Oh, that's the next
Okay.
item.
I've
get
scrolled
that.
down too far.
So we'll be talking about that though.
Let me scroll back up.
So,
I did have one question.
The number
about-
was,
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
oh, sorry. I'm trying to get on the right page.
No, that's okay.
I scrolled down because I thought that's where we were at.
Yeah, it's confusing when we have multiple street
Mm-hmm.
projects on the same agenda. I did have a question with the CIP budget
There we go.
being about
Right.
$272,000 more than the low bid. Yay. Well, I noticed, the next one it's $62,000 higher. But is that funneled in? Do we do more streets or do we just keep that?
well, at this, and I'll show you a little bit on the next item, but we do keep a little bit of reserve because last year,
yes.
remember, we had more repair costs than we bid. Sometimes we don't know what, we bid some repair costs, but sometimes we get into a street where we have
Right.
a whole bunch
23rd.
more than we need. So I want to keep a
23rd
little bit of
cost is
cushion
more.
so we can cover that and still try to remain within the budget.
So change orders and all of that. I mean, this
Correct.
isn't really the closing cost, I guess.
No,
So-
it is not.
Okay.
It'll move a little bit up or down, but
Okay.
this is the starting. So that's a
Yeah.
good question.
Thank you.
Real quick, I know a little bit about this because I did work out of engineering, but I was in traffic light.
Right.
So how do we pick the streets that's going to do it?
Well, we actually completed a study, well, we've done 2 now, with IMS. They give us our pavement maintenance or pavement conditions throughout the city. Each year, they go and run through all the community streets and things like that. Then also, they put together a schedule of these different streets to be done. That along with the city going out and monitoring the streets each year and trying to select the streets. Because sometimes some of the streets they've selected, whether it be weather or some other things come up, then we might have to move them around a little bit because one degrades a little faster than the other. So it's a process of using our GIS data or information on the pavement maintenance and city personnel that go out and select these streets. So
Do you take citizens' input at all?
we take citizens' input, but sometimes they have to be changed from year to year. It might not be the year they think that would come up, because some things come up faster. So we do listen to that, but I don't know that it's the end-all be-all for that, because we have to to try to get the most bang for our buck. So we most of the time, try to lump projects into specific areas so they don't have so much mobilization costs and different things like that. And so they can do a long stretch at one time too. So it's a little bit of that, but it's not a major part of going forward. So
And Jeff, so IMS, they give you pavement conditions.
correct.
And they assign a number to each street. And then we try to repair in a certain number so that it doesn't degrade further and cost extra. Is that correct?
Correct. And that is I believe our pavement condition the last time was like 67.
Mm-hmm.
And at
Was in
60 to 80, I think, is reasonably good condition. So we try to keep it in that range. Once it gets below that, then it goes back to where it might need a total reconstruction or that type of work. So
Great. And I did want to point out.
That's
oh,
our
sorry.
goal,
Yeah.
to maintain our pavement maintenance number or whatever, or the condition in a certain level.
And I did want to point out that this is separate from the pothole program, correct? So if a resident makes a complaint,
Correct.
that's completely separate budget. And
It
we
is.
try to be more responsive
Mhm.
on those. Okay.
Correct.
Jeff, a couple of questions. We place a high priority on our street maintenance program, arterial and residential.
Mhm.
Take a minute and, for the benefit of the public, explain the sources of how these projects are funded, so we have a clear understanding of the funding mechanism for it.
I thought about, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I thought about adding that slide where all the different funding sources are from.
Yeah.
One of them is from another item that we're dealing with today is our federal fund exchange, where we use the money from the federal fund exchange to supply that. Some of the funding comes from reserves from the year before, like if our projects come in less, then we have those funds. And
Let me, if I could help you just real, because I'm looking at the budget. So this year, our total program budget was $2.7 million. $1 million of that comes from the quarter-cent sales tax, the referendum that was passed, which is typically the amount every year. Special Street, which is our gas tax money, $600,000. The growth fund, which is $250,000, and then the federal fund exchange that Jeff mentioned is $420,000, and then we had reserves of $452 to make up that balance. So typically, the annual revenue we're seeing is the quarter-cent sales tax, which is $1 million approximately every year, and then the special street money, which is pretty much in that same range, and the growth fund. And so, yeah. So really, we've got four
there's quite a few things
fixed,
that come
pretty
together.
much
to make
fixed
this.
areas
You're right.
there. Yeah, so.
John, do you have that information, how we will be comparing what ultimately we'll approve this morning to previous years in terms of the total allocation for our maintenance program?
I'm trying to remember what we spent last year.
Last year
was like
whether hopefully we're not on a
I think
downward
like
trend.
2.1 million
Yeah,
overall.
this year's
last
a little,
year.
yeah, this year's higher.
This year is higher.
But generally, we're in that
reduced
that
it.
same range because, quite honestly, our revenue sources don't change a lot. And what's allowed us the concern is that we've had a pretty good reserve over the years that we're spending down in the street area. So that would be a concern. But for the most part, we're spending in that $2 million plus to $2.5 million annually.
I would say, safe to say that this is one of the biggest things that I hear when I was campaigning is our streets. You know that, and so it's something I need to really understand so I can address citizens about it. So, you know that it's a big deal in Hutchinson on our
It is a big
streets.
deal.
Yeah.
For us too. So
Okay. Additional questions or a motion on this item? And just as a reminder, this is item D.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, I
should probably say
was
that.
just looking at you and I was like,
The
that
way I
doesn't
haven't
sound
said it
right.
today.
Yeah.
Well, I would move to approve the bids and authorize the mayor to sign the contract with APAC Kansas, Inc. in the amount of $1,322,699.83, subject to compliance with all legal requirements.
I second that.
Okay, please call the roll.
Dave Line?
Yes?
Soldner?
Yes.
Bagwell?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Tyler Carvalho.
Yes, next item, please.
Item 6E, consider bids for 2020 residential street maintenance project and Martinez trail sealing.
All right. This one gets a little more complicated than the last one. This was our first bid of the year. It was on January 28th, and we had a couple bidders for this. And this, like Linda had said, involves the residential street program and some trail sealing for the Parks Department. And it's similar type work, and the same contractors would complete that, so we tried to lump things together in that respect. So as we discussed, well, those of you that were on the council at the end of last year, we're trying to bid some alternate maintenance types to try to make our funds go a little bit farther this year. We were fairly aggressive on what we bid this year, just to try to get as maximum out of it as we can with the choice. If we had enough funds, we would keep all the different options. If we didn't, we'd reduce it by one. So this involves primarily our standard chip seal maintenance on the residential streets. Also a chip seal with a scrub seal, which would be happening on what I would call the arterial streets, that area in green on the map up there, which is on Blanchard Street, and then on Severance Street from Blanchard to Avenue C, and then on Halsted Street from Avenue G to Cary Boulevard, or up to the railroad areas. So this project is partially going to be funded back through the arterial project, since we're trying to mix some of the methods and the contractors that are working on this. The low bid for the overall project, was Circle C Paving and Construction. For the base bid, it was $1,064,338.28, and it was 3% over our engineer's estimate. Like I said, this includes about $153,000 for arterials that will be placed by the contractor, and the arterial reserve will reimburse the residential reserve for that portion of the project. So, alternate 1 was the area in blue on the maps up there, which is the streets that are surrounding or adjacent to downtown. It came in at $799,928.68. This is the over the estimate and over the budgeted street maintenance costs. So as we go forward, I would recommend not approving this alternate. Then alternate 2, the sand seal or the seal at the Jim Martinez Trail. This is what it includes, kind of working on that portion of the Martinez Trail. It's also over my engineer's estimate, but it is below the $30,000 budget at $29,002.05. So when I looked at all the bids, and our engineer's estimate is somewhat of a guess each year as we go into this, not knowing, trying some new different options on maintenance, and we tried to figure out what would be the best way to proceed for these estimates. But if we look at the bids, it appears that mobilization costs are higher this year than we have in the past. So a number of items are included in the mobilization. For instance, cost of trucking the aggregate to the site. They bring this aggregate to the site in a couple months leading up to the projects. The cost of getting equipment to the site and bonding costs, among others, are included in this. We typically base the estimate for mobilization on the previous year's construction and inflate those costs, but this year it was significantly higher. So I want to show you how this potentially works into our overall street maintenance budget. And this isn't included in your memos, but arterial maintenance, residential maintenance, and the total, of course, is on the top. The budgeted CIP was $1,595,000 for arterial maintenance, $1,002,000 for residential maintenance for a total of $2,597,000. We had just approved the $1,322,000 for the arterials, which you can see was APAC, Kansas. And then if we if we apportion out the other arterial maintenance in that, the $153,000, we come up with $1,475,000, which is below the $1,595,000, and then our residential maintenance is at $914,000. So our overall project's about $200,000 less than the actual budgets. So I do recommend that we accept the base bid and alternate number 2 in the amount of $1,093,340.33 and authorize the mayor to sign the contract with Circle C Paving and Construction. So that's a little long-winded for me. I'm not that good at those longer things.
It's two different things here. This is chip sealing. This is where we chip seal.
For the most part, yes.
Correct. And the other one is where we take the street completely up. Am I right?
Well, not the street, but we take a
a portion of it. You take it up
and put it back.
And
with
you put a new
asphalt.
paving down. Correct.
Correct. And
So
go ahead.
this is more of a maintenance type situation where we're going to use chip sealing instead of taking the pavement up.
Well,
Correct.
they're both maintenance.
Right.
I would call it, but this is a lot. We get more bang for our buck because if you look at how much area we're getting, that is quite a bit to cover, and we've been trying to cover the city in about 7 to 8 years lately to make it all the way around to all areas of the city in the residential areas this way.
So when we take the asphalt out on the last one, the first one you showed us, where it shows all blue
Correct.
there. How long is that 5 years that street will last compared to this one? How long will
Well,
this chip seal?
We try to make them last, well, according to our budget, it takes about 20 years to get around to all the arterials. It might not always last that long, but with what we're spending, it takes about 20 years to get through the whole thing.
What is the lifespan of a chip seal?
A chip seal, 7 to 10 years, and we're trying to make a 7 to 10 year sweep around the city. We can potentially get longer on the arterials, but it depends on a lot of things, traffic, heaviness of traffic.
All the moisture lately.
Well, some of that.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of things. So that's one of the reasons why we do chip seal part on some of those, because it does seal the surface. So we tried to minimize the moisture getting below the ground, so we don't have as many potholes. But it just takes a while to get around to everybody. So
Okay.
does that answer your question?
Yes, I know a little bit about it, but I want to make sure that the audience knows two different
Sure.
things.
It is.
Where we take it up that much off the street, and we just
And that's the more
chip it.
expensive option.
Yes.
Yeah. And explain to me the bidding out process versus if we had a street maintenance crew.
Well, we used to actually do some of the street maintenance through the slurry seal, and what we had found that we actually can bid the projects and do the projects for cheaper than the materials costs when we were doing it internally. So
Because we couldn't get a good price and they could? 'Cause
Well,
why would they get the
I don't know
material
all the-
less than we
I don't know all
could?
the ins and outs of that, but that was kind of the
Probably the volume, you think?
Well, part of it was equipment too. I
Equipment,
mean,
and our
having to
equipment
have the
wasn't very
equipment and manpower
Brian
for
knows a
just
little more
this
about that, but I
short
don't.
period of time, and
Brian.
Well, if
and-
it takes 20 years to go through, I'm like, can't we just keep someone busy all the time?
Well, and I don't.
No,
I
it's
think
seasonal.
it's more of a
Get it.
function of money than it is a function of people at this point.
Yeah, so it would
So-
be. I just wanted to know if they were ever considered, because you said, only thing is you talk about we had to pay extra to bring in, because they had to bring the equipment in. We had to
Well,
pay.
we would have to truck stuff here too. So we have some
Well, I
of
mean
those.
the equipment, I didn't say
Oh,
the.
that's true. And
Yeah.
our equipment
I used
was.
my word specifically there.
You're right.
We would still have to truck the aggregate in, I do understand that. But also you said cost of moving equipment in the town and all of that stuff, so,
Our equipment was getting pretty long in the tooth.
doesn't
As at the end, too.
Greene County have equipment that sits around sometimes?
They do some work. That is true. But they also bid out a lot
They bid
of
out
most
a
of their
lot,
projects.
and we're all doing the work at the same time. I mean, it's a seasonal work plan, and so our busy time is their busy time, is contractors' busy time, so.
Yeah, I think it would make a lot of sense to have an in-house team if we had a warmer climate and we could work all
Year round.
year. It's so condensed.
For us, it is.
And so then you have all of those people and equipment 6 months out of the year that I guess you could put them on something else, but it would definitely build up our staff. Jeff, I had one question about alternate number 1.
Uh-huh.
And what happens to those particular streets? Are they just put into next year's?
Yeah, that's what, and we might think of a better way to package it maybe too, to fit in within our budget. No, the idea was to not do them. It's just we'll have to put it off for a year.
Okay.
And we'll look at maybe some other options, because we had never bid the Cape Seal process before, so we try to look each year to see what would be maybe the most economical going forward. So.
Yeah. I get a lot of complaints about that Martinez trail, so I'm really happy to see that we're finally
Well, getting started. And
sealing that.
That's Justin's
Yeah.
work, so it's really him moving that forward. So.
Well, and hindsight's 2020, but we probably never should have used that material for that trail. But what's the lifespan of what we're doing there? Because it seems like nothing we've done to seal in cracks has been super effective.
Well, we'll see. I think it should be similar or better than the streets because it's a different type of traffic. You know what I mean? It's not heavy traffic. What we have, I think the degradation here is just more weather and different things going forward. So if we can seal that, maybe we won't have some of the cracks and other.
When do we anticipate that having to be closed?
That will be. Has to be done by the end of July.
Okay.
But it only takes a couple days. I mean,
Okay.
it'll take a day.
It'll be done
Most of it they could do in a day, I think, out there.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Thank you.
so it's not a long period of time.
Jeff, I've got a sidebar question.
Okay.
Woody Seat Freeway.
Yep.
What can you tell us? Where do you think things are with the feds and with KDOT and so on the Woody Seat project?
On Woody Seat, John and I sat in a debrief about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, and they actually indicated that ours was one of the 3 projects that they promoted to go forward to get funding, but they only have so much funds, so they had to select between those. I think we
You're talking
did
about
good.
in
We
three
did good in
projects in Kansas.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
3 projects in Kansas.
Right. the
But
program.
we did good in almost everything, and he said it was a tough one. I mean, it went to the political side probably where the selections were made. We were in the top 3, so any one of those could have been selected. So we have a few things to maybe improve, but I
Yeah,
think
we-
it's a good candidate to submit again.
To resubmit, okay?
We might have to do some other maintenance on Woody's Seat in the interim just because
I
of the
see.
timing. But I just want, so I think we're thinking towards going toward resubmitting, and preliminarily, they think that the submittal time will be a little bit earlier than last year, but that's not all final at this point through the federal government.
So it would resubmit sometime this summer?
Well, they've talked about
Moving it up a little bit, yeah.
Last year, we submitted July 15th, and we found out in November, so
Yeah.
they're talking about moving it up June, and I don't know, they haven't
Yeah.
put out the notice of funding yet,
Okay, well, if they
But,
haven't done that, there's not much we can do.
not at this point.
Again, remind us of if we were a recipient of the grant, what would we receive in terms of the grant funds?
Well, last time we submitted about $5.6 million, and the city would put in like $1.7 million.
Okay.
Right.
To move that forward, so.
But our call, we had, and I wasn't sure what to expect from it, but we were on the phone for an hour with the gentleman from the Department of Transportation up in Washington, and he kind of went through every specific part of the grant and what they rated and how we did in each one of those categories, and very complimentary of the grant, whoever wrote it, and we didn't take credit for that. But, we had people help us with that. But really, we hit on all the points, and they had 3 buckets, and bucket of good, move forward. We were in that bucket. Then there were some that were all right, and then some that just didn't simply qualify. And we talked a little bit about the political side of things, and Hayes, Ellis County got back-to-back projects, and we kind of wondered about that. And I think going forward, I think the effort would be to really communicate specifically, not with staff, but with the congressman,
Amen.
senator, have them make a call, and look at that. So I think
were
we
encouraged,
probably,
but it's unfortunate that we didn't
Yeah.
get it.
yeah. So, and there were some other things going on in the Ellis County project. It was around an economic development project. Is probably why that got funded. But anyway, it was really a good call, and I thought we got some good points. A couple areas that we, I can't on the
They just
economic
wanted us to
impact,
quantify things
cost
instead of putting up.
benefit. Trying to be a little more specific on that, and so we kind of know next year what to do on that. So.
Unfortunately, they said you can't just resubmit what you have.
Yeah, change. You said please change the dates and those kind of things.
They
so.
said you're
So would
probably
we
not the
need-
best to do that.
Would we need to retain the services of the grant consultant again?
I mean, other than just help us with a couple updates.
We may,
We may just to see.
to kind of freshen things up, maybe.
Yeah.
Because they did, I think they did a very good job on, and I was pretty impressed with their process on putting that together, so.
Yep.
Well, if we have those opportunities, those individual opportunities with our congressional delegation, I sure hope we take advantage of that to openly communicate our
That would be
interest
great.
and the need for their support, either through written or oral communication. I understand how this process works, and that is a real important step to.
I think it would have been on this
Yeah.
one. so.
To get their involvement and their endorsement of the project itself.
Correct.
Can I ask a question now? Now I'm confused, and council help me out on this. We already made a decision, we're going with the roundabout, is that true? Is that why we're going with the ground, I mean, we're not, that decision's already been made, am I right? Is that what I'm getting out of this conversation? Is the money going towards the roundabout, or is it going to repaving?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I don't
Well,
think
the project was specifically submitted
Did include it.
with the roundabout concept that everybody was aware of. We had several meetings in the community on that. The other option was just to spend a couple $1 million locally of our own money to rehab the bridge in its current
And
condition.
it may be more than that. There's a couple,
Yeah.
two of those bridges probably need reconstructed, so
But-
we
but-
might be spending $4-5 million just for those two bridges.
Bridges.
If-
But that application, Councilman, was specifically for the
roundabout.
roundabout concept.
was.
Yeah.
So, if we get the money, well, then we're gonna do a roundabout, correct?
Correct.
That-
But
that's-
we'll be coming back to the council again before we apply again, for approval.
Okay.
Yeah, so that'll be coming back to you probably this spring sometime,
Okay.
or later, yeah.
I just wanted to make sure, because it sounded like to me we're already gonna do the roundabout. We had that decision, but not necessarily. We're not.
Well, yeah, and that'll come, like I said, before this council. My thought would be at the time that whoever's here, that before you submit the application, that you have some agreement on that, because there's no sense in submitting an
Yeah,
application for
no,
a
we want
project you're not
total
gonna do.
consensus on what the application looks like
Right.
Okay,
and the engineering design of it. Yep.
okay, thank you.
Are there further questions about the residential street maintenance and trail project? If
You
not,
kind of
I'll,
had a segue there.
sorry.
Sorry about that, Jeff.
That's all right.
Sorry. Yeah, I'll entertain a motion if not. And this would be on item E.
I move approval
As presented, okay.
as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Okay, hearing none, call the roll, please.
Dave Line,
Yes.
Soldner,
Yes.
Bagwell,
Yes.
Garza,
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho.
Yes, next item, please.
Item 6F, consider federal funds exchange agreement with KDOT.
Okay, one more time, I hope. Jeff Peterson, Director of Engineering. Each year, for the last few years, the city has requested to exchange federal funds with state funds in order to use those funds on our street maintenance projects. This allows us to exchange $1 in federal funds for 90 cents in state funds. This year, the city would receive $791,410.36 of the $879,344.85. This amount is higher than usual because the state rebalanced funding between the cities and the counties this year. It's a one-time deal. Unfortunately, it would be nice if we would be able to capture that every year. Typically, the city receives about $420,000 to $430,000 a year. And we use these funds specifically for our street maintenance projects. If we didn't refund those or didn't do the federal funds exchange, we wouldn't be able to use that money for specifically for maintenance. We'd have to use it for a specific project each year, and to program that through the state of Kansas, and it ends up being some other requirements that would have to go forward. It takes about 2 years in that respect to recover the funds, whereas we spend these funds each year, and they're very critical to our street maintenance funding. So I do recommend that the City Council approve the federal funds exchange agreement with the Kansas Department of Transportation as we move forward. So if you have questions, go ahead.
I was trying to read up on this all weekend because I was like,
It's a little bit confusing. You're right.
well, I couldn't find I found a lot of information about why it's so great, you know, but I like to always see like both sides of the
Right.
story, and I wasn't able to really find any.
I think there's just an enormous amount of red tape attached to federal funds, and so this
Yeah.
absolves us of some of the
Similar
restrictions.
to the CDBG, we'd have to do environmental reviews. We'd have to make sure that the contractor would have Davis-Bacon requirements. I mean, there's a whole host of things, and I would rather use the funds for maintenance, working actually out on our streets than going to additional engineering or administration. So I think the 10%, I don't believe, I mean, we get a greater benefit by just going out and applying it directly, because if we did federal funds, we'd have more matching funds that we'd have to supply and those types of things. Right now, we don't have to match, we get to use it, we just plug it directly into our streets. So
I remember one year they dropped that percentage down to 75, and that was a little hard to swallow.
It was.
So
They did that for 1 year. But
Yeah.
they pledged to keep it at 90% going forward, but it's going to depend on, they still have the option of deciding that each year.
Yeah.
I think 90% is a pretty good, because if you consider the administrative costs of the red tape versus the less administrative, that's what I'm getting at.
Right.
There's probably just as much an administrative cost to get the other federal funding. Would that be?
For sure, probably more, because there's so many more engineering costs.
Well, and I think the key is, as Jeff said, is just, you know, we're not tied to specific project.
Yeah, we can use it for maintenance.
We can use it, and this became very popular for cities to be able to apply it to their street program, and not, okay, we have to have this project, we get it designed, we hire a consultant, we do all that, and it's really an efficient way, I think, for cities to receive these funds
It is.
as opposed to the past.
It comes with a lot less strings.
Yeah,
So.
and the 90% number is a good number. 75% wasn't as, you know, too good of a number.
But it's not a big enough amount to do much
Right.
of a project
Yeah.
at that point. So.
So with the adjustment for this one time,
It'll go back to our reserves and maybe improve or at least be able to maintain what
maybe
we're.
try to speed up some of our.
Well, I don't know if it'll speed up,
No.
but but we're trying to maintain budgets, how much we do each year.
Yeah.
And we may still, because as we said, as John had mentioned, our reserves keep going down, and at some point, we're supplementing our street projects like 472,000 with reserves. At some point, we won't have that.
Won't have
Yeah.
it.
Okay. Is there a motion on this item?
I would move to approve the request to exchange federal funds under the Federal Aid Fund Exchange Master Agreement and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Okay, discussion? Please call the roll.
Dave Line,
Yes.
Soldner,
Yes.
Bagwell,
Yes.
Garza,
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho.
Yes, next item, please.
Item 6G, consider Tower 1 graphic designs and lighting options.
This one. I had such a hard time. I couldn't. I sat there like.
Jay, do
I
you
just
want to?
could not.
Good morning. My name is Brian Clinton. I'm the Director of Public Works. The PowerPoint come up. There it is. Just to give you a little bit of background on this project, Tower 1 was built in 1959 and it was last coated in 2004. Those coatings typically last around 10 to 15 years. So this project is definitely ready for recoating. We plan to recoat the exterior of that tank as well as the interior of the tank and all those columns that you see as well. As far as the schedule for this project, we're anticipating a bid opening of April 14th. Plan to bring, hopefully, if the bids go well, bring the low bidder to council for approval on April 21st. Have a notice to proceed for this project around the middle of May, and the project wrapping up final completion around the end of August. So before we get this project ready to advertise for the bidding process, we need some direction on a couple things from the city council. One of them's lighting, and one of them's the graphic design on that tower. So as far as the lighting goes, we've got two lighting options. Both of these lighting options are from the ground, lighting up towards the top along those columns, those 10 columns. And we wanted to keep the lighting on the ground for a maintenance issue. The existing lighting, which hasn't been on for the last 2 years because it's not working properly, was up, and it lit up the Hutchinson logo up there. It costs about $1,500 to hire an electrician to get up there and repair if a light goes out or if a ballast goes out to do those repairs. If we keep those lights on the ground, then city staff will be able to do that maintenance. So option one would be for just a white light. We've estimated that's to cost around $20,000. The second option would be to have some color changing lights, the ability to change colors on those lights. That's going to double the cost. Around $40,000 is the estimate for that lighting option. And then, of course, the third option would be no lights at all.
I like the white lights.
Yeah, and I don't know if you wanted to discuss the lighting right now, or if you want to move into the graphic and then kind of have just a discussion of both the graphic design and the
Oh, we
lighting.
can have a discussion on the lights. Is any, like, what do you guys think?
Yeah, anybody feel strongly or?
Brian, you make the recommendation. Go ahead, Brian.
You know, I'm going to leave this decision to the council.
But you're talking, on the lighting, you're talking about the uplighting because of future maintenance.
That's right.
Yeah.
We,
So the
that would
uplighting.
be my recommendation. If we do the lighting, we want it from the ground.
From the ground up, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
I guess discussion is, do we want the no lighting, 20,000 for the white, or 40,000 for the changing colors?
Yeah, I like
I like
having
the-
more lighting in that neighborhood. It's dark, and then just for people coming into the community, being able to see.
I like
like
the
lighting.
white light.
Yeah. lighting's
I like
good.
the white light.
And that's the graphic I
I
forgot
think
to
it's clean.
move, so.
I think it's,
Yeah, I don't have any real passion about changing the
Yeah.
colors. White is
Yeah.
fine with
White's
me.
fine.
The only reason I would think of using other colors would be around the holidays, but that would be.
Yeah,
We'll hang Christmas lights up on it.
yeah.
You gotta get up there. You'll have plenty
you're
of
gonna
time.
wrap each one of those poles. Yeah.
That does look good, though.
Yeah, it does look good.
Question I have for you, being a former employee, how come we don't have our electricians in the park department put these in?
Well, I guess that is something we could look at doing as far as, a lot of that cost is just the fixtures themselves. So we could definitely not include that in the bid and work with Justin and his park staff.
Well, we have bucket trucks, we have all the stuff we need, we have very capable electricians to do that. And also saying that the lights being down, I used to climb those towers a long time ago to put that up there. And I'm a little skinnier than I was now, and that was not fun at all. So I
Right.
promote you doing it from the bottom. That'd be great. But I'd like to see if we can have an effort, if our electricians can do it. We have very capable electricians, bucket trucks and so forth.
Yeah.
So, but and that being said, I like the white lights.
Okay.
All right.
Very good.
You want
I
to go
think
over
the
the design?
consensus
option?
is white lights.
White lights.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now the big question.
Design option's the one that I've been going back and forth with.
All right.
I like the bottom one, but I don't like the yellows on the bottom. Like, I almost wanted it reversed.
Yeah.
in color.
And from a graphic design, yeah, Rebecca is kind of took the lead on
Yeah, I
helping
like
develop these. So
Yeah.
it is- yeah.
And can we just pass these down, please? Thank you. All right. So both designs, Rebecca Starkey-Casing, Director of Public Information and Community Engagement. Both designs incorporate elements of the Hutch flag, which, as you know, came through a grassroots, citizen-led community effort. I've just passed around printouts to remind everyone and explain the symbolism of the flag. Since its adoption, the flag has grown in popularity and use, from bumper stickers to t-shirts, water bottles, jerseys, from murals and postcards to the banners that hang downtown now. With this adoption, not only officially by this body, but by individuals and groups throughout the community, it makes sense to further incorporate and embrace the symbol as the city. With the community effort around placemaking and creating a positive identity that we can share, I feel this is a great opportunity to do something interesting in this corridor to make this gateway to our city a little more inviting. So the two different options up there, I'm partial to one. As someone posted on my Facebook page last night, putting the flag, just throwing the flag up on the water tower makes about as much sense as just throwing the city seal on the flag. So it just, it's a little more aesthetically pleasing and more interesting to kind of deconstruct the flag and do something different there. So with that, there's no cost difference, and we don't really have a marker coming in on that corridor. So it could be, this becomes, you know, one of those things you look for when you're entering Hutch.
Mm-hmm. Did our design council weigh in on this at all?
No.
Okay.
I did show it to some members of it, okay. And there was support by some of those members, but nothing official.
Okay.
My only concern is the solid colors are almost a little too salt hockey.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. I mean, you have the
Ain't nothing
community
wrong with
college
salt.
here, and their colors are different. I don't know. It just, to me, I didn't care for it as much.
I'm gonna agree with you on this, but I thought if the colors were switched around, see, in my head, I'm like, maybe had the hard color on the bottom and then go up to lighter, like where the blue was on the rails and then the white lights went on it, and then the yellow and then the white with the Hutchinson. I didn't like the heavy color down to the light color. I almost wanted it reversed.
Yeah.
If that made any sense.
Is painting the colors of the legs an option?
I think it would add to the
To
cost.
change
or
the
what.
color.
Well, isn't it already blue? So wouldn't you be painting it
That's
white?
true, you would be
But
paying
it's
for
not that color blue.
Yeah. So that we could just do whatever color down there as well? Or is
Right.
there okay.
Yeah, we could do a blue color down on the legs as well.
As far as the salt talk thing, I just have to say it's also our city flag color, and so at some point we have to claim
It's just more
that.
concentrated somehow this way. I mean,
It's hard to explain it.
yeah, I can't quite explain. It's just that it's more concentrated, and I just feel more like I'm at a pep rally.
I think it's because the yellow and the hard blue are right on each other. That's
But
why if
hey.
it was the yellow and the white with maybe the blue lettering, it would be more not so hard on each other, right? Maybe.
I'm a salt hawk, so I don't have a problem with it. But
I'm just picturing you guys like I just wanted the hard color on the bottom. I don't know why. I just like, and
but
then
I-
having the Hutch in blue. The
There's-
yellow can stay, just the white and the blue switching.
I will reiterate that when I saw it, I thought specifically of the banners in downtown Hutch, which reminded me of our flag that was presented a little bit differently, like you mentioned, deconstructed. And the blue and gold does not represent Salt Hawks. It represents the
Well, I know
sky
it
and our
doesn't. I know it
agriculture
doesn't,
heritage.
Jane, but that's what comes
You gotta
across.
explain that.
Yeah.
As far as doing the legs dark blue, one concern I might have is if we're going to spend the money to light those, the blue's going to absorb that light a lot more than white will, if that makes sense.
That's true.
Only comment I
Yellow
can,
legs? No.
only comment I got, the one on the left, it's an ordinary sign that everybody has. The one on the right, people will say, we're in Hutch. Huh? It stands out to say, I mean, if we want to get somebody's attention, the one on the right would get the attention, whether it being ugly or great, you know. That one on the right, I think, would get your attention. The other one on the left is just an ordinary one that everybody else has, so. And that being said, I want to let people know we're in Hutchinson, so if we had to make a decision today, I would go with the right. That's-
For me, I'd have to go with the left unless the right colors changed. To me, I just don't like.
Is the right going to say Hutchinson or Hutch?
Hutch.
Hutch?
Mhm. So, any more questions for me, or should I get Brian back up here?
And I did just want to point out one thing our maintenance staff just brought up to me was the fact that the bottom of that tower will have some mold eventually on it. You know, it condensates and then that water turns dark. And so that was the idea behind going gray on the bottom on that left option. So that bright yellow, you probably will see some black streaks and some black molding on the bottom.
Why don't
of
we
that
switch
over
the
time.
yellow and the blue then? Because we had the dark blue on the bottom of the bowl with a white top and yellow legs.
We can work on, I can work on design with changing that around, but just
Yeah.
switching the colors isn't design, it's not gonna look aesthetically pleasing to have a dark blue with a bright white star in the middle and then a yellow behind it, because you'll lose the middle of Hutch.
I can't even see the star that's in the hutch.
Yeah, it's hard to see.
Yeah.
I honestly it just looks like a splash of paint that someone missed. I'm not trying to be
No, I'm
mean
not
in
a
any
fan.
way. I could not even tell that that was a star there.
Well, I'll say I like
And
option.
with the mold, sorry,
Yeah,
with the
no, I
mold,
agree.
maybe having the dark blue at the bottom with yellow legs and a white top.
I like option 2, but I don't think there's consensus here. And if there's anything I've learned on council the last few years is that design choices are important in this community. Everybody has an opinion on them. I don't think design by committee is ever effective, so I'm sorry you have to go through this, but we might want to land on something that we can all agree on, or at least a majority of us. Is there consensus on council for either one?
Can I make a recommendation?
Mhm.
We could take it, instead of having the whole blue, the whole bowl blue, and correct me if there's a cost difference that would happen here. We could make it just a blue stripe around where Hutch is, and maybe do something like yellow top or something and keep that bottom gray. I can play with something like that to make the bottom gray, still keeping that blue behind Hutch.
Yeah, you're the professional designer,
like
so
these
I like that idea. I am concerned about the mold, because the idea behind this is to give us another sense of place and pride. And if it looks
If it
dirty
looks
and gross in
moldy,
a few
yeah.
years, that's gonna work against that goal.
So what you're saying, go take it back to design and do something different?
Yeah, I do have some, this hasn't been bid, right? You
time.
mentioned that it would be bid in April and then started in mid-May, completed by August. So if we push that back, we're still okay as far as weather goes, or?
Right. Well, yeah, we do want some direction so we can put that whole project together. And we need to know what graphic to show the contractors. So we'll need to make a decision here sooner if we want to keep this schedule. Otherwise, we'll push that schedule back into September.
Well, but if Rebecca comes back to us in 2 weeks, basically is what it would be, with a modified design, that would still give you adequate time, wouldn't it, Brian?
Yeah, I think we could make that work.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, if we commit to making a decision, hopefully in 2 weeks.
Let's go ahead and table this then. I apologize
Yeah.
for the pushback. Just want to get it right.
Yeah,
Do we need a formal motion on that? There wasn't a motion attached. Okay.
no, because there's no,
Okay, thanks for your input, everyone. Next item, please.
Item 7, report of city officials.
Okay, I can't remember which side. Let's start with you,
I don't have
Nancy.
anything today.
Do you have anything, David?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay, what about you, Steve?
I'd like to report, I said that I was going to get a junior council. I went and visited with the high school. They love the idea. They're going to try to work it out to work with me, since they have history teachers and what do you call it, government teachers, and they're going to work with me on how we're going to build this and how we're going to do it. They were excited about it, and how we're going to get the young involved in it. That got me excited. So I'm working on that idea, and they're going to get back with me after they work with their government teachers how we're going to do this.
What school was that? Was that the
Hutch High.
Salt Hawks?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hutch
yeah.
High. Now, that's a very good
Sorry,
que-
I had to throw that.
That's, yeah. Yeah, well, this is in the city of Hutchinson High School worked with me, and I talked to them about it. So I'll bring back more about how we're going to do it. It's going to take a little bit to get everything together, but I'm excited about it.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Yeah. Other than that, I hope we all can work together and resolve our differences and try to work together as a family and get stuff under. I don't know how I could say that, but I'm committed to that. That's
Yeah.
all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. What about you, Sarah?
The only thing new I got going on is just trying to tackle the housing issue in the community. And so I've
Yeah.
talked to Roy Little yesterday. We had a long, extensive conversation. I'm going to be involved in going to the committee meetings.
Great.
And me and Roy are going to actually work on something collaboratively together to present at the next meeting. So that's what I'm working on.
Perfect. Great. Glad to hear that. I have a few items, if you'll just humor me. We have a couple new council members, and the county has a new administrator. It's been a while since the city and the county have had a joint session. I know we're working on jail project. I know that's been somewhat delayed. Thought it might be appropriate to reach out to the county and see if there was interest in having a joint session with them on just ways we could collaborate and just kind of get to know each other and meet the new administrator. What is everyone's thoughts on that?
I think that's a good idea.
Sounds fine.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah. John, would you like me to reach out to the commission chair, or do you want to reach out to Randy, the new administrator?
Either way, yeah.
Okay.
If you have some topics you'd like to,
Well, most importantly, I'd like to talk about the courthouse renovation, the jail, but I don't know if we're in a place where we can discuss how that project is going, or
you mean just an update on?
yeah,
where
just
things are?
well, I mean that's just an update
Okay.
and kind of more of an informal get to know each other. But are there other topics of importance that we'd like to hear from the county on? Ways we
Maybe
can
the
work
county's
together?
got some updated information on the earthquake situation.
Yeah, yeah.
There's lots being written about it.
I know we don't like to meet just for the sake of meeting. It's just
But maybe
you know-
they could provide us some update on that.
okay.
Okay, we can reach out.
Great, thank you. Another item I had is there any update on the entrepreneurship navigator position that we are helping fund through this budget year? I've not heard anything.
I haven't been contacted about anything there.
Okay,
Nothing.
maybe reach out to the chamber on that. I'll reach out to Deborah. And then I think Justin's still in the audience. Any update on the water slide property? I've been in contact with a few interested parties and
Good morning. I think John was going to bring this up in his comment, so.
oh,
So no, we'll
Good
jump in
timing.
now. So going back to September, I did an RFP asking for proposals for that site. At the time, we had 2 interested parties. We received 1 proposal back. The basics of the proposal was a canoe access, several kind of adventure sport activities, sustainable farming, lots of moving parts. There was some investment they wanted from the city to get that going. I met with them. We kind of pared the scope down a little bit. They resubmitted. Felt like there were still just too many moving parts, too much work to be done under that formal process. So since we had that proposal, we were kind of working under that RFP process. And so talked with them, and I told them that kind of at this point, we either need to reject the proposal just because it wasn't quite ready to bring to council, or I asked them to withdraw, and then so we could kind of continue to work on some of those ideas.
okay.
And so they chose to withdraw, and that's not, the way I phrase it, is they're not withdrawing their idea or their passion for the site, it's just the way they packaged it. They're going to withdraw that, and also that will allow us to bring in some other groups. For example, Kansas Alliance of Streams and Wetlands put in a very large grant for river access from Great Bend all the way to the Oklahoma border. And so that may bring in another partner we didn't know about that could fund the river access piece. So,
Okay.
so lots of moving parts to it. Just didn't feel like we had enough agreement to continue with what they had. So
So are there still the 2 proposals?
There was only
Just
one.
one.
Just
There were
one.
2 interested, and that's why we did the RFP, but only 1 proposed. So Art Canoe chose not to propose.
Okay, okay.
So
But you're still working with this, is it the
this other
skate
group. Yes,
part?
the skateboard group, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Still going to work with them, possibly bring in a partner or 2. And since we only had 1 proposal, I don't want to put the kind of that formal time frame of the RFP, so we kind of step back from that. We'll continue to work to hopefully develop that site.
Okay, great. And that wouldn't alienate the current business using it, the Art Canoe?
No, and they're technically not even using the city-owned site.
Okay.
They're using the county right away along the river bridge.
Okay, just looking for a solution that makes everyone happy.
There were lots of ideas. It was a very ambitious proposal, so I think we just kind of need to step back, clean it up a little bit, and see what we can do.
Okay, great.
So
Well, keep us
hopefully-
posted.
Yeah, we'll keep working with the group that proposed as well as a couple others, and hopefully we can get something done.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Justin.
All right, thank you.
And that's all I had. What about you, John?
I don't have anything else.
Okay, so what time frame, Paul, are we looking at for the first executive session?
Probably 11 o'clock
11 o'clock.
Okay, is
for the first one, yeah.
there a motion?
How many we have? 2?
Well, yeah, we got to go by law. We go in executive session. First one is for employer-employee negotiations, and then the second one is related to
Real estate.
property acquisition. So we'll go in, then we'll come back out,
Okay.
go back in, come back out, and typically for the media, we will not take any action at the end of these executive sessions.
Okay.
Okay, I will move to recess into executive session pursuant to the employer-employee negotiations exception, KSA 75-431-9B3, in order to discuss issues related to 2021 contract negotiations with city's FOP bargaining unit. The open meeting to resume in the city council chambers at 11 o'clock a.m. And I'm going to take 5 minutes.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Please call the roll.
Dave Line?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Bagwell?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Tyrus de Carvalho?
Yes.